Welcome back to the English channel. Here are a quick 6 more ways English can be grammatically confusing. Number 6, contractions. And we ain't talking about labor pains. Can't versus cannot can change the tone of your message. Contractions are less formal and for more familiar conversation. Knowing when to use contractions is key. The list is long enough to make its own video. I will mention the one that another Indonesian friend tried, which we don't use, and that's teme for tell me, though perhaps we should since we use lemme for let me, and dialectical contractions like ain't for not, and finna, short for fixin' to, which is a very informal English way to say going to or gonna, are also their own category. Number 5, slang. What's cool today will be modified and outdated by the next generations. Always looking to improve things, as well as have their own identity separate from the older people. Younger people are constantly endeavoring to be able to communicate without the older folks knowing completely what they're talking about. Gen Z have their own thing going on derived from what has come before, of course, as all generational slangs do. Gen Alpha are already slang forward. I will mention a few like coulda, woulda, shoulda, grandchild phrases of could've, would've, should've, which came from the grandparental phrases could have, would have, and should have. I also had a friend extend that to yorda, 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 as a shortening of you ought to, as a play on words of yada, 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 another way of saying blah, blah, blah. FYI. Etymology from Wikipedia says yada is probably influenced by, or perhaps an alteration of yatta or yatata, perhaps onomatopoeic of blather, or perhaps derived from the Norwegian expression yada, spelled J-A-D-A, which has a similar pronunciation and interpretation. Sometimes popularly attributed to Yiddish, but this is dismissed by etymologists. Yatta yatta is British, specifically Scots, English for continuous chatter, rambling and persistent talk. That's from S.R. Crockett, The Men of the Moss Hags, 1895. The phrase yada yada was first popularized by the comedian Lenny Bruce in his stand-up bit Father Flotsky's Triumph, the closing track on his 1961 album Lenny Bruce, American. It gained renewed popularity in the US in the late 1990s on the television show Seinfeld, where it appears as a catchphrase initially in Season 8, Episode 19, entitled The Yada Yada, originally aired on April 24, 1997, which centers on the phrase in the duplicative yada yada form. That from Wikipedia. Number 4, spelling. English spelling is notoriously tricky. Words like through and through can easily lead to mistakes. English spelling is inconsistent due to a complex history of linguistic influences, sound shifts and borrowed words, as well as a lack of successful spelling reforms. The English language has been influenced by many languages over time, including Old English, Old Norse, French and Roman. For example, the Vikings brought Old Norse words to England in the 8th century, including they, which replaced the Old English word high. Pronunciation has changed over time, and spelling has not always kept up. For example, the great vowel shift in the 15th to 18th centuries changed the pronunciation of long vowels, probably as a result of generational slang, but spelling didn't change, making English spelling less phonetic. English has also borrowed many words from other languages, but there have been few attempts to completely reform the spelling. Even when there have been attempts at reform, people have often resisted change, which has prevented substantial progress. Number 3, pronunciation. Words that look similar can sound completely different. Read in the present and read in the past tense, spelled the same as read is a classic example. Number 2, context. Understanding the context of a conversation is vital. Context defines everything. Misreading cues can lead to awkward situations. Number 1, cultural references. References to pop culture, that's popular culture or national history, can leave non-native speakers lost. I have found that I have to show my non-native friends the English movies they have not seen, after which they show me theirs. Knowing your audience is crucial. Also knowing your software. I'm using Pictory.ai for this. While I like the AI voices and accents they avail, I do have to go through and find a way of punctuating to make pronunciations and inflections sound right. Then I have to go through and change most video clips to a better one. It all takes forever. The add-on charges in the middle of a project are not my favorite. Of course, that's the time they have you by the short and curly, so you pay it. However, you can cancel any time. Thanks for subscribing and watching until the end. please leave a comment saying you did so. We'll look for you in the next video. Peach out. The end is nigh. The end is near. The end is now. The end is here. Say it with me now, and 'tis the end.